Welcome to TruPowur, home of the most powerful marketing tools, training, and technology on planet Earth. Get ready to earn, enjoy, and experience more than you ever dreamed was possible. If you're tired of just getting by and ready to really thrive, then buckle in and listen up. Here's your host, Matt Fox.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 240 of TruPowur Academy. And today we are going to be talking about those markets and timing and when to focus on those markets to maximize not only the benefit for your customers, but as well as your income. So without any further ado, let's take a look at the agenda. So the topics today being covered, we're going to be talking about understanding the different marketing and sales cycles, knowing your markets for residential and commercial customers, overview of the market updates, and what are some of the next best steps. And of course, we'll have a Q&A session as always. So markets and sales cycles, do you know where you're going? Understanding what markets and what is key to a successful campaign. And so we want to make sure that we're always focusing on those things. And so what are the best services to market in? Well, first off, you have the utility audit. Obviously, that is for commercial nationwide in Canada. We have the commercial supplier side, and we have residential for supplier side, the autopilot system, and then the solar. So the utility audit is available in all 50 states in Canada. The commercial side for the custom pricing and matrix pricing is available in most of the 50 states in Canada. Residential is a much smaller footprint, and it's in select states in Canada, along with the autopilot being available in all 50 states in Canada. And solar currently is available in 9 select states. We have some other states that are coming on very soon, such as Virginia and some others. So let's take a moment and go to our desktop here. Right. So starting out with the quick launch menu is where you're going to have access to everything within the system. And so I always like to pin that to my browser. So when I open the browser, it's going to always be there. I think we've covered that several times in past trainings. And so one of the things that you want to really be able to focus on is taking and working with customers in an order that is going to maximize not only your income, but to be able to create or give the customer the greatest amount of impact for whatever markets or services that you are attending to for that customer. So we typically start, since most of the day is going to be business hours, then we focus on the utility audit, where we can talk to the customers about performing a utility audit where we go backwards up to 4 years, identifying the errors that are not only on the bill, but mostly the errors that are found within the utility that are not visible to the customer. And so when we're marketing to commercial customers, and the utility audit, which is found right here, the second button down on the left-hand side, that is the utility audit, where we upload all of the information for a utility audit. We are typically going to be talking only about the electric, although there are other cost centers, which we will get back to. But we want to focus on one lane at a time in order to maximize the efforts. Because if you just throw everything at the customer, they're going to get ultra confused. And usually what they're going to tell you is send me some information, which is your first key that you probably are talking too much. So sticking with just the electric side. And so when we get a copy of that customer's electric bill, then you as the agent or broker are going to upload it and submit it to the auditors. Now, that's only half of the deal, even though we have only spoken to the customer about the utility audit. Simultaneously, we're going to want to add that into the pricing platform in order to see if there are any identifiable savings for that customer moving forward at the supplier level. So the utility audit is done at the utility level, and the supplier side is done at the supplier side in the pricing platform. So when we get that bill, we're going to upload it to the auditors, which is by submitting that customer for a utility audit. And then we are going to want to load that into your pricing platform in the back office by just simply adding the customer, and we've done that in the past, so that we can provide a proposal if there's additional savings at the supplier side. Well, how do you know which markets are going to be best to be focusing on? Well, in the old days, we used to have to do the analytics, and you still can do the analytics by going up here to the right-hand corner, clicking on that menu, and coming down and doing the analytics. However, we've upgraded the system so that it does the analytics for you on a daily basis and then creates this report in Market Update. So when you click on that, you'll see yesterday's report. And so for commercial electric, this is telling you that the best markets to be focusing on are in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, and Pennsylvania. Commercial natural gas, residential electric, residential natural gas. And then down here, you're going to see the results of markets where customers have received competitive bids. So what does that mean? Well, as agents and brokers are putting deals in the system on a daily basis, you're really not seeing the results of that because there's not really any way currently to report those findings and what the final outcome is. But because of the process that we use for the reverse auction or request for price, it's much easier to report those results out to everybody so that you can get a high level idea as to what are the markets that are getting the best results. So although this is natural gas, if you had some auctions that were done that had electricity, you would see that as well. But what this is telling you is that in Massachusetts and Pennsylvania, and a lot of Pennsylvania, is that when you look at this rate right here, you're going to see best matrix rate. So in other words, this is what your competitor is having to offer the customer. And this is what we would offer the customer if we were using matrix rates. But when you use the reverse auction or request for price or custom pricing, then the suppliers are going to bid and counterbid against each other in an open platform that they can see each other's bids. And if you select to do so, the customer can also watch the bidding in real time. And so this was able to reduce that customer's bid down to 1.13. And so that saved 21.6 cents overall. So that's pretty awesome. And if that were electric and you were saving 20 mils, then that would tell me that maybe I would want to focus on Pennsylvania. So when I come back up here and I see, okay, Pennsylvania is a place I should be focusing on, then obviously when I go to request leads from support, which is right here, then I'm going to want to make sure that I'm focusing on areas where I'm going to be able to do the best for those customers. So I would select Pennsylvania, and then support will get a notification and then upload a block of Pennsylvania customers to your CRM. And that way we can identify those customers that go into your CRM. They do not end up going into anybody else's. So that is integral in playing the market so that you can provide the customer the greatest amount of impact. And you can access the market updates from this page as well as the market overview. Now, the market overview is just a high-level map to give you an idea as to where those markets are and what they are. So up here, you've got commercial custom pricing, you've got commercial matrix pricing, and residential matrix pricing as well. So these are all of the states in which are deregulated, and we have the ability to give that customer custom pricing. Now, up here, you do have a ledger. So the states in gray are not active. In other words, there is no deregulation available. So we can't do anything for them at the supplier level, but we can do the utility audit. Now, bear in mind that the utility audit does take some time. It can take 30, 60, 90, even 120 days, depending on the size and complexity of that audit. So that's really tomorrow money, right? And we don't know what the results of that audit is going to be. There might not be any errors, or there might not be any errors that are significant. And about 70% of the time it does result in benefits, but you don't want to stop just at the audit. So once we have that utility bill for the audit, instantly we are going to want to also check and make sure that we can provide value for that customer at the supplier level by putting those customers into the dashboard and by adding that customer, and then we will be able to create a proposal based on the customer's information, their usage, their load. And so it's going to show comparison against other suppliers. It's going to show monthly, annual, contractual savings. And we've done that in the past. So you can go back and look at some of the past trainings on how we have done some of those proposals. And I or support or somebody is more than happy to help walk you through those processes. So as soon as you get a bill, let me know. I'd be more than happy to jump on a Zoom with you and walk you through that process to make sure that you're doing it correctly. If you are wanting to just kind of test it before you do it live, you can always come down and use the demo commercial pricing platform. It is not live. You don't have to put in your own credentials. Just ask support for the demo credentials so that you can do that. That will not get pushed out to the suppliers. Do not, please do not add any test samples in the live portal, because nothing ever gets deleted because of compliance issues. So we want to make sure that we keep our portal clean. Last thing we want is stuff going to the supplier that says John Tester on it. So anyway, so having a high level idea of where you're going to focus on is going to be key. And if you remember, once we get the audit submitted, then we're going to want to create that proposal on the supplier side based on the market updates. Is going to give us a high level idea as to what markets are going to be the hottest to focus on. Check this daily. This is so important because the markets are changing all the time. So you may have customers that have both electric and natural gas. And so this is really important in making sure that you're focusing on areas where you're going to be able to provide the greatest amount of impact, the greater the impact, the easier the yes. The easier the yes, the quicker you get your commission rolling and start creating residual income for yourself and sustainability. So that is really, really important. So when you are in your CRM, and you can access that right here from the quick launch menu. When you're in the CRM and you access your leads, typically you may see the lead filtering system looks similar to this, where you're going to see all states, all campaigns, all sources. But if you're wanting to focus on a particular area, say, for example, if I'm wanting to only focus on those customers that I had support add to my CRM that were from Massachusetts, then I would want to come down here and select Massachusetts, hit search update. And so now I know that these are all the customers that are commercial for Massachusetts. If you are going to be working some of those states on residential is typically going to be after hours, after 5 o'clock, after people have gone home. Even though there are more people that are working from home, you're going to have far more success with residential after 5 o'clock, their time zone, than trying to work residential during the middle of the day. Now, mind you, you do have coast to coast, so you've got a pretty big window of opportunity where you can start from the East Coast and work your way to the West Coast. So that's really important. Now, when you're in the platform and you are talking to all of your customers, it is important that you continually make sure that you update the status of that particular customer. Because if you don't, it is just going to stay in your fresh leads and not get resulted out of there into a subcategory so that you can go back and work on specific areas. So if I finish talking to this customer and the results were, first call, voicemail drop, or emailed the first utility audit request, then when I hit save, that is going to take and move this lead or this customer into that category. And it's going to take it out of the fresh lead so that when I come back tomorrow or later in the day and I start doing some more work and I go to my fresh leads, I know that the first lead at the top of the lead source is going to be customers that I have not spoken to. So that's going to make things move a little easier for you. So that is going to help you identify, sort, and find customers as well. So same thing if you are going to be working residential markets, you've got the residential identified with RES and commercial with COMM and the state. So you can select all of that. I see a lot of times people are sorting it based only on commercial, and that is fine. But if you have 5 or 15 different commercial states in there, you're going to see all of them. So you can see that the fresh lead count still stands at 981, not much really changed. So it's no different than having everything there. So you want to be able to focus on particular areas, make sure that you do your sorting by the lead source. So hopefully that makes some sense. Now, I have had people who have, I've seen a lot of requests coming in for different things. I do want to tell you that under documents, you've got a lot of information here, especially for the utility audit. You've got different brochures, depending on what type of customer that is, to take and download that and attach it to the email that is going to the customer so that you have industry specific information as well as if you're trying to do some research, look at the TruPowur Academy training histories. In here, you will see the past trainings and what they pertain to. Now, you'll notice up here it says hold down the control key because if you just click on it, it's going to take you out of the CRM and you're going to lose your place. But if you're wanting to keep the CRM open to where you are and you happen to want to say, look at residential scripts and outline, if you hold down the control key and click on it, then that will help you tremendously. So that should be helpful to you as well. So, all right, so let's take a peek over here at the agenda. So markets and sales cycle, knowing your markets, residential and commercial customers, overview of the market updates, and what are the next best steps? Well, I think it's really important that you really understand that to maximize the customer's benefit and to maximize your income, you're going to be probably focusing 95% of your time around the commercial sales cycle in phases. So right there on the quick launch menu, you have all of the different phases where, upon you're going to be talking to the customer, getting a copy of that utility bill, upon receipt of the utility bill, submitting it to the auditors, and then we are going to immediately upload that into the pricing platform to generate a proposal. And for larger customers, we may prepare that customer for the reverse auction or request for price. Why? Well, if you're in the pricing platform and you are looking at a particular area for a customer, let's say that customer uses just under 1 million kWh. Here you can look at the market trend to see what market timing prediction is looking at. Are you above or below the optimal time to be focusing on that customer? Now, obviously, if the customer is using less than 1 million kWh, then you can get matrix pricing. Matrix pricing is just pricing that the suppliers submit into the system on a daily basis. But to get custom pricing, we have to take a little bit different action. And if that customer uses more than 1 million kWh annually, then they are going to be required to do custom pricing. However, if you have a customer that has 3 million kWh annually, you can get kind of a ballpark idea by putting in 1 million kWh, looking at this and saying, okay, well, if this customer is paying 10.9 cents for their electricity, and I can lower their rate to 8.27, then that means I am going to save that customer $134,000 based on 1 million kWh. So you could get a pretty good idea that if you took this number times 3, that's going to be a pretty significant number. So you've got $400 and some thousand worth of savings there for that particular customer. And you would also be able to multiply your commission by 3 to get just a ballpark idea. Now that's based on 5 mils. So you can set that to the margins that you that are respectable for the customer and for you. And remember, when you're looking at the market updates, let's go back over here just for a second. If you're looking at the market updates and you see that there is a significant amount of difference, then that tells me I might have an opportunity to still provide an extreme amount of value for that customer, but I might be able to raise my margins from 5 mils to 7 mills. And I think I would much rather have 3 times that number than 3 times 10,000. So, and it's still going to provide that customer a huge amount of savings. So that's key. Also, you'll notice that the effective best date range, there's a red asterisk, which is telling you that there is a better start date in the future. So when you look at this, you can see that, well, if I started this in November, I could actually provide the customer a little bit better pricing, which is going to increase the amount of savings. So beware of that. When you get your first utility, we will walk you through these processes to make it simple. So the total annual usage caps out at 1 million kWh. If you try to put in 2 million kWh, it's just going to tell you that, you can't do that, that you need to use custom pricing. So want to make sure that we're always clear on understanding what you can and cannot do. We just typically would not price a customer with over 1 million kWh annually matrix pricing. It's just really not fair to them. They should have custom pricing. Now, you're not limited to customers over 1 million kWh. If you have a customer that has 100,000 kWh annually, you can certainly put that in there. And you can get custom pricing on 100,000 kWh annually or matrix pricing. So you can do matrix pricing up to 1 million kWh, or just 1 point below 1 million kWh. Now, it's important to note that, when you look at the states, remember that the market overview shows that this map is showing all of the states that have custom pricing available. And here is what's available for matrix pricing. So if you're pricing somebody in a state that does not have matrix pricing and you're like, well, the system's not working, I'm trying to get pricing and it's not working, that is just telling you that there is no supplier that is offering matrix pricing in the states that are gray. So all of the states that are under custom price, these are all of the states that are available for custom pricing. So this is going to be probably the high point if you're wanting to focus on states where you can get both matrix and custom pricing. Then I would focus on these states. So when you go to your lead request, then you're going to want to go down here to where it says commercial customer leads, electric matrix only, which means these are going to be the states that have matrix pricing only. These are going to be the states that have electric and natural gas matrix pricing. So you just want to be conscientious of what you're selecting and understanding what these mean. So you have residential, which is electric only. That's only matrix, right? Residential for natural gas, that's matrix only. Residential, electric, and natural gas. And then, of course, you've got commercial customers for electric matrix, natural gas matrix, electric and natural gas matrix, natural gas custom pricing only, electric and natural gas custom pricing only. And then the other states that are available that you can't go into the next phase, but you can do the utility audit, then those states are also available as well. Just bear in mind that the utility audit does take some time. So while the auditors are doing their work, we want to create a proposition for the customer to create today money, right? So we want to go into the next phase of the process, and that is to upload the customer's information into the pricing platform and generate a proposal. Once we create that proposal, we're going to rename the proposal to the customer's business name and then send it to the customer. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to email that to the customer by simply clicking on their email and selecting from the template right down here where it says supplier savings proposal. Don't forget to rename and attach the proposal. So once you do that, you can attach a copy of that proposal. Now, why do we want to rename the proposal to the company name? Well, if you send a proposal the way you would download it, it's going to get downloaded and it's going to be called proposal PDF. That is, when a customer sees it, they're not going to, they're already going to be a little bit more on the defensive rather than if they receive an email that says, hi, Bob, or hi, Frank. During our initial audit investigation, additional savings were identified on the account. Please take a look at the attached PDF file. Give me a call to go over the details with you. If they're looking at that PDF and it says ABC Company, they're more apt to open that. When they open that PDF, it is going to prompt them because they're going to see all of the benefits and everything. There's nothing there that's going to sell them other than the fact that there's hopefully going to be a significant amount of savings. And if we were looking at a customer and it looks like, they've got $6,300 in savings, or like what we were looking at before, where there was over $100,000 in savings, I would still not be afraid to take a customer that had 3 million kWh and creating a proposal that showed $134,000. Now, this is only 1/3, right? So when I create the proposal, that's going to be significant enough for that customer to say, wow, that's amazing. Well, if you think that's great, wait till you find out what really is going to happen. Actually, I was only looking at 1/3 of your usage. And so that savings should be about 3 times as much. And couple that with what I want to do is actually use a proprietary tool that we have that is a reverse auction tool where we put your information into the system and the suppliers bid and counterbid against each other in order to drive the price even lower, making that number go up much higher and protecting you for a much longer period of time. If that would be okay with you, I can get that started, provide a link for you that you can observe it. So there's full transparency. You can watch that in real time. The auction typically takes about 3 days. Most of the bids and counter bids will probably come in on the last day and within the last hours, usually resulting in the final bids coming in just before 1 p.m. Central Time. So this is a huge benefit in being able to provide value for that customer. So it's important to remember that when we get the bill, upload it to the auditor so they can get to work, but then we need to go and start creating value for that customer and revenue for ourselves today. So then we're going to, once you email that to the customer, then we're going to want to follow up with the customer to let them know that we received their utility bill safe and sound, that the auditors are already underway. In fact, during the initial investigation, some additional savings were discovered. I emailed you some information. When you have a chance, take a look at that. Give me a call. We'll go over the details. Now, upon review and agreement with the customer, we can, if they're below a million kWh and matrix pricing is good, then we can go ahead and click the sign up button. Their information is already in the platform. So we don't have to really do anything else other than click the sign up button. If we're going to use the reverse auction, then obviously we need to make them privy of that, let them know that they'll be receiving an email with the link so that they can observe everything in real time. And those auction prices are going to get prices that are below market or below what your competitor has. So if you have customers that are telling you that they want to go with somebody else, then you need to pump their brakes and say, hey, look, I don't think you understand what you have available to you just in the beginning, not to mention all of the other assets that come along with having your contract through the TruPowur platform, like capacity tag, notification, market timing, all of those things. So that is a huge, huge value point in doing so. After the customer confirms and signs the contract, then we want to go back to the customer and let them know that all is progressing with the audit, that we want to make sure, well, in review of their account, we see that there are actually additional cost centers that have the potential to increase the amount of the refund. What do you mean by that? Well, as you know, we have your electric utility under audit. Let me ask you, does your company use natural gas? Sure, maybe, okay. How about water and sewer? No, that's taken care of by the building. How about waste removal, dumpsters, that kind of thing? Telecom, shipping, financing, cost segregation, payroll, health insurance, workers' comp policy, any or all of those additional cost centers have the potential to increase the amount of the refund. And so if natural gas happens to be one of those, then guess what? We're going to do with natural gas, just like we did with the electric, and put that into the system, send it to the auditors so they can get to work, because that's going to take a little time. And then we're going to immediately put that into the system and do a proposal on the natural gas, just like we did for the electric. 9 times out of 10, once you do that first proposal and contract with the customer, usually the customer will actually request, hey, can you also take care of our natural gas? Absolutely. And then once this is done, and if natural gas happens to be in that mix and we have finished that process, then we are going to want to take a look at what are some of the other available opportunities that can benefit the customer, such as the solar program. Okay. And so if they happen to be in one of these states where the free solar program is available, we want to do the solar last. If you do the solar program first, it locks everything up. It makes things more difficult and makes it almost impossible to do a lot of the other things that we need to do prior. So always do the solar last. I know it might seem tempting to want to just focus on solar, but that really is one of those things that you want to have last focus on. Now, the utility audit is only available for commercial customers, right? So what do we do about those customers in other non-deregulated areas for residential and commercial customers, even for that matter of fact, is that you can use the utility or the autopilot. And so those customers who may have too small of a spend for the utility audit, I would definitely pursue that with autopilot, making them aware that we actually have a system, and you can send them the link to this page so they can observe the video and information on how the autopilot works. But in essence, This is a way for you to take a customer, yourself, your friends, family, customers all over the United States and Canada, residential, commercial, and upload all, ALL, all of their monthly bills. When I say all, I mean everything except their mortgage, car payment, and credit card. So electric, internet, mobile TV, satellite, security, water bottle delivery, trash, sewer, anything that is a monthly bill, you can take and upload that to the system. We will renegotiate their rate. So we will not switch their services. We won't change anything about their plan. So we're not going to take their internet and lower it from 200 megs down to 50 megs and, oh, we saved you some money. No, everything remains exactly the same. What we do is we take all of their usage and add it to our aggregated pool and are able to renegotiate the amount that that customer pays. And like the utility audit, we get paid on that compensation or that difference of that savings to the customer. So huge benefit, doesn't cost the customer a dime to find out what their savings is going to be. Typically for a residential customer, I've seen savings generally in the area of $400 to $1,700 a year. So that's really good for a residential customer. Now, if you are working residential customers on the supplier side, when you're done, you still can go back and offer the autopilot for all of those customers. Now, you can do the autopilot for commercial customers as well. So there's a lot of benefit and a lot of different areas where you can provide value for that customer. Now, one of the latest updates on the utility audit is that we are now delving into more of their power factor issues. And so when we are looking at a customer's electric during the audit process, we have another team that is going to be analyzing their power factor correction issues to be able to provide you with some other areas that might be helpful for that customer in reducing the amount of their usage. So if you go over to the corporate site, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about power factor and how that is good for the customer to be able to offer power factor correction under services, you come down here to power factor, then you will, there's information here to help you learn a little bit more about power factor and what that means and how it works. We actually manufacture what we call the green energy panel that for residential, for commercial customers. And so what that does is it actually puts a surge protector on the entire home. So if you were putting in this panel for a residential customer, that power factor correction and line surge protection will protect all of the equipment. It will clean up the energy so that the equipment is going to last longer. So you're going to have safer conditions on all of your TVs and refrigerators and air conditioning, and everything is going to operate a lot smoother, a lot longer. But the bigger picture is that it's going to typically pay for itself within 18 months by reducing that initial cost. Now, on residential, I've seen that go up even higher because it's going to reset the ratchet. It's going to provide the customer the ability to get rid of those spikes that is causing them to have penalties that they're paying for electric that they're not using. So if you want to understand a little bit more about how that works, we can go to the market analytics, and let me see if I can pull up a state. We'll just use Texas for an example, and pull up a graph. And it doesn't, this graph has nothing to do with power factor, but I think it's much easier to understand when you can see it visually. So this is back in February when we had that big cold snap and energy and everything spiked. Well, when you go and you start flipping on things in your home or your business, and you look at your meter usage, you're going to have these times where you have these big spikes. And some companies have these spikes like every morning, when they come in and they start flipping on equipment, or you have a stadium or a manufacturing plant where they come in and, 8 o'clock, everybody's starting the printing presses and you have these big spikes. Well, if you take and draw a line out horizontally out 12 months, and this is where you operate all day down here. But from here to the top of that spike, that dead area, you're going to end up paying a penalty for electricity that you don't use. Why? Because when you have a spike, the utility company looks at that and says, you did it once. We have to make sure that we always have that much power available to you. And if you don't use it, then we're going to charge you for energy you don't use. So to get rid of that, by putting in capacitor banks and power factor correction, takes out all of these spikes so that they're operating at a much lower level and a much smoother level, so that they're going to end up with more consistent, stable, and less usage and less power factor errors that are going to cause them to have to and pay a lot more. Now, I've had customers, especially in non-deregulated areas, that benefit the most because they don't have any choices. And so by putting in power factor correction equipment can really benefit them hugely. I had a customer here just outside of town in an area that is not deregulated, and their bill was about $25,000 a month. But they came to me, wanted me to help them try and reduce their rate. Unfortunately, they are controlled by a municipality, can't do anything. But we did some analysis on their power factor by putting in $45,000 worth of equipment. It saved them $15,000 a month in bad power factor. So that's a little bit more of an extreme case, but they typically would stay off, and then they're booting up lights and air conditioning and all kinds of things all at once. So if they're not smart enough to stagger start all that stuff, then they're going to have bad power factor. So those are some of, the benefits of having the green energy panels that we manufacture. If a customer needs LED lighting and that kind of thing, we can certainly talk to them as well. And if you want to understand more about power factor and how that works, go to this page. You have a video right there that will give you a lot of information in understanding power factor. So I am going to stop here for a moment, and let's take a minute and unmute everybody so that we can open up the floor for a little Q&A session, answer your questions. So hopefully most of them can stay on topic. And if you are watching the replay, you will find out that the Q&A sessions are not recorded. And so if you're interested in getting more involved, and especially in a community with other agents and brokers from around the country, then come to a training. So let me go ahead and unmute you. and open the floor for any question. Good questions. Well, we covered a lot of information today. Glad that everybody was on the call today, and look forward to having a wonderful week. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So have fun storming the castle. Bye now.